Don't give a fuck whether you land or not, just let him go. Don't worry about it, he's gonna be a shitty fight, but you gotta let punches go.
Last round.
You can't wait until they get, if you miss it, bang, go right back. And don't take 30 seconds to start another fight.
Alexander, I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody like me. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable.
Look at that combination. And the
I kept telling him he had no punch, he couldn't hit, he's swinging like a sissy, he's missing, let me see your bumps. I hadn't started dancing yet. A tremendous sensational first round, and Hearns gets hurt. Hearns got stunned. Hackle was stunned early in the round. Great first round. Incredible. Perhaps one of the best in middleweight history.
that black guy, he hits hard.
Fire!
What's going on, my boxing people? It's George Dampier with RealCombatMedia.com, video writer and reporter. And let's just jump right into it because there's so much going on, or so much that had gone on over this past weekend. And plus all the news that we had just missed after releasing the podcast last week. Of course, regarding Klitschko Fury, like I mentioned, the fights over the weekend. Pacquiao versus Broner on the horizon, possibly. Ward versus Brand being official. And, of course, the biggest news that we had just missed out on. This podcast was released on Thursday. And we had just missed, after the announcement of Canelo, I had made the headline of Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez reached a verbal agreement to fight next September. The next day, following the podcast, Canelo Alvarez had announced that he will be fighting Liam Smith, WBO champion, at 154 pounds. This is, to many of the displeasure of boxing fans around, not good news at all. This is kind of a regression as far as becoming acclimated to the 160 pounds that he swore up and down that he was going to be doing. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Canelo wanted no parts of Gennady Golovkin from the get, and that the whole inviting Golovkin into the ring, Mexicans don't fuck around, was all a big joke. And just as face value, many people thought when he had announced that, a lot of my Mexican friends and, other fans of Canelo were really hype about this. Like, oh man, he's really going to fight him. Because, because he talks so much shit right to him, in front of him, and right in front of him, he kind of played himself. So it's not a good look at all. It was just terrible. And this just goes to show you that he never really intended on actually fighting Triple G, which is a damn shame. And unfortunately now, we're going to have to be set for this Caleb Smith fight, or I'm sorry, not Caleb Smith, but Liam Smith, be set for September 17th. And the worst part of it all, it's on pay-per-view. Yeah, so my feeling toward this is, at this point, Golden Boy has to feel the pressure now. If it's not just the obviously displeasure of the fans, we have to hit him in the pockets now. This can't keep going on. I think Golden Boy and Canelo are really, really feeling themselves, as they usually do, that they're the, next cash cow now. It's boxing's biggest stars, so they can just sell no matter who the hell they fight. And Canelo definitely jumped the gun. Like, he was on the way there, and now he's just assuming now that the field is clear of Pacquiao and Mayweather that he can do this. And fans, you guys, we spoke up when it came to Pacquiao and Mayweather to finally get that fight pushed through. And again, the duty has been called upon us to get this fight to happen and to let Canelo know that we are not buying this bullshit. And it's a shit fight when there's the mass amount of media is telling you on why it's still a good fight. From Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. There's plenty of headlines out there right now that are saying, oh, well, it's not a bad fight because blah, 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 and XXX. So, they're trying to, trying to feed you this shit. And, and maybe he actually does have a good chance. But the thing is, we know Canelo's game. There's no secret to what Canelo does. He is a weight bully. He, and the bad thing about this is not only is he doing a disservice by, faking the claim that he's trying to acclimate to 160 by going down to 154 to fight for a WBO title. Because remember, titles don't mean anything to Canelo. It's the fact that he doesn't actually completely benefit from this. Remember, he was still looking like he was killing himself to make 155 pounds. Now he's going down to 154 to make what statement we don't know. But now, I mean, I feel like he's even harming himself of a good performance by not coming in at a healthy weight. Because even 155 was still starting to look like it was killing him. So, fans, you've been called upon. Let this be known that we will not tolerate this. I'm not tolerating this. And I will gladly promote all streams for this fight for those who are not going to be able to watch it, because we damn sure are not going to be paying pay-per-view for this. All right. Now, that kind of takes away from the shine that everyone had over this past weekend. So let me talk about that. Starting first with the UK, because obviously those were the first fights that took place. Of course, headlined by Anthony Joshua and Dominic Breazeale. On the undercard of those fights were Conor Benn, who scored a first-round knockout over Lucas Radich. And I was quite impressed. Obviously, this is the son of Nigel Benn, famous middleweight from about the 90s, late 80s to 90s. And surprisingly enough, I've seen him fight on the last undercard of Anthony Joshua. Looked really good, completely, offense predominant, but definitely has some really, definitely has a solid foundation to work with. He's a pretty decent fighter, and surprisingly enough, for me, I didn't know that this was only his second fight. And he looked pretty damn good. Now, of course, he still backs up in a straight line and still eats unnecessary punches, even from this kind of, low-rank opponent. But, of course, that's something to be worked on, and I like what I saw from him. Also, there was Dillian Whyte, who's returning back to action, former foe of Anthony Joshua. He had a 6-round knockout over Bakrin. I'm not sure if I said that right. Hopefully putting himself back up to a world-class level fighter. I mean, he's pretty damn decent. He sure as hell is better than Charles Martin was. But it seems like he's just on the fringe of world-class. So I don't know if, at his best, if he'll be able to really break through for another world title shot. Also, there was the son of Chris Eubank Jr. scored a TKO in the 4th round over Tom Doran. To no one's surprise, obviously, I made note, and I also have stream on a couple of boxing groups for this fight. It was to be expected. I also said that Tom Doran looked like a damn, Backstreet Boy reject or some boy band member. Like, he definitely didn't look like he was a fighter. And sure enough, actually, they mentioned on the commentary from Sky Sports that he was actually a pilot engineer on his full-time job and does boxing on the side. So take that as you take. Yeah, I mean, just take that at whatever you want. But so that's pretty much what he was working with. And to the distaste of that level of opposition, Chris Eubank Jr. was showboating and whatnot, but the funny thing about it is, even with this level of opposition, for me, he didn't really impress. There was nothing he really did that great. I feel like any borderline world-class fighter, would have done the same, if not got him out sooner. And it looked like there was times he could have gotten him out the fight sooner. And of course, followed after that, he calls out Triple G, and he's really confident in himself on thinking that he can beat Gennady Golovkin. And it seems like even his countrymen, who are overly biased and of course are super partisan with all of their fighters, and even they have to look in the mirror like, oh shit, well, I don't think he really has a chance. But this is all good news, or at least everything is going toward Eubank's favor. Triple G said he's willing to go to England and fight. So talks between Eddie Hearn and Tom Loeffler have been pretty much been positive. They said they are looking to finalize the fight by the end of the week. So I might have to make a emergency update alert on Hands of Fire podcast on that. But the of course I missed the second what do you want to call it, the pre-main event was between George Groves and Martin Murray. George Groves scored a unanimous decision, scoring 118-111 on all three judges' scorecards. And I guess now you could say that Groves puts himself back into position of getting, at least lining himself up for a world title chance. The fight started pretty damn slow. And it was hard for me to really determine whether or not this was a really good performance by George Groves or just a really shit performance by Martin Murray. I picked Martin Murray to win this fight, but damn was I wrong. I really don't know what in the hell Martin Murray was really planning or what his game plan was in this fight. He wasn't really trying to engage much at all until at least late in the fight. It was pretty much too late to save himself. But be that as it may, Groves now is back into position, more closely in position to land a WBC championship, where Badu Jack is the champion. He's ranked number 2 now in that position. He's ranked number 4 by the WBA. He's ranked number 10 on the IBF, and also ranked number 3 on the WBO. Looks like his best chance, though, on actually acquiring a title would be going toward the WBA, which is held by Felix Sturm. After that, maybe Gilberto Ramirez in the WBO. I'm pretty damn sure he doesn't want any parts of Badu Jack again. James DeGale, though, past foe that he has beaten before IBF, so maybe he might want to go that route. Who knows? But the main event for that card in the O2 Arena was Anthony Joshua, who scored a 7th round TKO over. I'm sorry, not TKO. Well, it's hard to count. If they don't finish the count, it's a TKO. If they do, it's a KO. On paper, though, it is a TKO. I don't believe the ref actually finished counting. But on paper, it's a TK, or it's a knockout. Round 7 over Dominic Breazeale, which was it was really good to see Anthony Joshua finally get some rounds in. You did see him try to take Dominic Breazeale's head off, or at least from the second round. Not even. These guys actually opened up pretty damn good from the opening round. Like, I thought that, there would be a mini feel-out process in the first round, but not at all. These guys, maybe took 20 minutes to get acclimated, and boom, just started exchanging. Well, more or less, Anthony started exchanging. But Breazeale did have some moments where he was exchanging too, and obviously it was, held him up through the fight. He even at one point bloodied Anthony Joshua's nose in the 6th round. And maybe Anthony Joshua saw his blood, and, he saw red and just, or as they say in England, the red mist took over, and finally just put him out in the 2nd round, or in the 7th round. And it did look like Anthony Joshua was starting to get a little gassed. But that was obviously from landings. I mean, he was throwing a good, 3, 4, 5 punch combinations at one point, clearly trying to get him out of there. But once, he was gassed, and once it seemed like in the 7th, he finally took his time and tried to set it up, and it just came within a matter of seconds, really. But credit to Dominic Breazeale. Obviously, I think I didn't really give him much credit for actually even getting into position for this fight, because, of course, his fight before this was against Amir Mansour, who pretty much was beating the hell out of him until he ended up, dislocating his jaw. And who I felt Mansour deserved the position of where he is at right now. But with that being said, Dominic did pretty damn good. And even the commentators took note that, it was good to at least see this be an event and not just some showcase again. And what to really take out of this is, obviously Anthony Joshua is still pretty damn green. There's still things that he's developing. He still looks a little stiff at times, and very sluggish, at least when it comes to foot movement. He's getting better. But for me, this is more or less a Dominic Breazeale was an American prospect, just in the same way that Anthony Joshua seems to be, who just happens to have a world title. On paper, these guys are pretty much identical. So there's still much more for Anthony Joshua to do. After the fight, he was talking as far as his next opponent. He was actually already looking forward to fighting Tyson Fury in the winter. But, of course, that won't be happening because the Tyson Fury and Vladimir Klitschko rematch has been postponed. And it looks like they will be trying to reschedule that fight for late September, early October, which seems to be a pretty damn long time. But considering that they said that, at least coming from Tyson Fury, was that he was told to, stay off the ankle, or at least to have an adequate time to heal, was 7 to 8 weeks. Now, even though he was buying Jaeger bombs for all the English fans for the Euro, I guess trying to console their loss to Iceland, running up the streets, who knows? Some people didn't even want to believe that he was actually injured. But, who does that? And it's questionable because Tyson Fury, if you ever seen the most recent face-to-face they had, or what is it, behind the ropes, whatever they call their little face-to-face thing in England, Fury did seem like unstable in a way. of like, hey, I can pull out the fight any moment, because I'm fucking crazy. I can do this. It's trying to make him seem like some Heath Ledger Joker villain. Trying to seem more mental than he really is. I guess playing mind games. But maybe not. Maybe he actually is an unstable fuck. But, so unfortunately, that July 9th fight will not take place in July and is looking more toward September and October. Now, back on this side of the Atlantic, we had a good old-fashioned scrap. Now, CBS opened with the Jarrett Hurd against Oscar Molina fight. That fight ended in a 10th round TKO for Hurd over Molina. Unfortunately, it literally came at the last round with 58 seconds left. Many thought the stoppage was pretty premature, and I would agree. But through the fight, Hurd was just pretty much just outworking him and landing more effectively, where Oscar was doing what he could, and he was exchanging. He was getting as good as he could get. But toward the tail end of the fight, he kind of resorted more to trying to load up on punches. He would take 3 to land 1, and he seemed to be okay. He was taking a little barrage at one point, and I don't know, the ref just didn't see him. Seem to think that he was fighting back. He was covering pretty well. Not all the punches that were landing in that barrage, but unfortunately the ref had stopped it. But it doesn't change the fact that Hurd was going to win, so it's not completely unjust. But it's unfortunate that it couldn't give him the satisfaction of at least finishing the fight with 58 seconds left. But that's a hell of a lot more time than 6 seconds left. Word to Richard Steele. But let's talk about it. Keith one-time Thurman against Shawn Porter, and pretty damn good fight. And it was, you couldn't lay out. For PBC, this was everything they could have possibly dreamed of. This is probably the way they actually had this prototype to start off this whole damn series in the first place. And ironically enough, I'm pretty sure Al Heyman's, probably thinking in the back of his mind that, his biggest success with PBC is with Keith Thurman. The CBS ratings for this fight was 2.6 million. That was the peak. That's 2.6 million homes, and they're not really telling how many were actually watching in those homes. So that's a pretty damn good number, especially considering there's a lot of others. I think there's baseball also on, and some Olympic sports that were also on as well. So it's pretty damn good. And even through the buildup of the fight, there was they had these guys on ESPN. They had them on First Take. Really a real good setup for this fight, to get the attention. And with Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter, these are like the most perfect guys to really at least try to make a face for an event. They're very eloquent. I don't know, I feel like like this is like one of those what white people say, but he speaks very well. But no, they kind of do. They really they really elaborate everything that they plan on doing really well. And both Shawn and Keith are really great guys. And obviously we're friends, or still are. But this fight, man, it was a barn burner. But unfortunately, there was points where, let's lay out the fight. Obviously, Keith Thurman, like I had mentioned in the prediction, was going to be using his boxing ability, and he really harped on his defense throughout this fight in the post-fight interview. defense, as far as really just sometimes laying on the ropes and just covering up. I mean, yeah, that's defense, but not as I guess not as the way he was trying to portray it. But yeah, he was boxing really well. Of course, creating his own angles. Sean was just putting pressure down his fucking throat. I mean, it was not giving him any room to breathe. But unfortunately, he was putting so much pressure on, he wasn't even giving himself enough space to land effective punches. And both of these guys did exchange some really hard shots. Keith obviously was landing quite often with Porter trying to come in on the inside. There was times he actually had him buckled and had grabbed a hold of him really hard, so he hurt him. And there was another one, I believe, that was in the 9th or 10th round where Porter actually stumbled. Pretty damn evident. There's no way he could hide that or fake that he was even hurt. But Thurman was unable to get him out of there. And for Porter, there was, of course, the chance that people were giving Porter through this fight was the fact that he could, apply pressure and hurt Thurman to the body the way that Luis Collazo did. And he, sure enough, did that. There was a solid left uppercut to the solar plex that he landed straight to Keith Thurman, and I guess Keith Thurman was coming on, he caught him coming on the inside, and as soon as he hit him, it was weird. Actually, Keith Thurman got hit and all of a sudden tried to run away from the punch. So, but yeah, so Keith Thurman ended up scoring the unanimous decision, 115-113 on all three judges' scorecards. For me watching, I didn't actually score it watching it live, but I was kind of keeping note up to maybe about the 5th round, and after that I just said, fuck it, let me just lay back and enjoy the fight. And unfortunately, there was actually people booing the decision, and I don't think it was, I don't even think it was more one-sided for any fighter to claim that they got robbed. So I was kind of open at that point, I was really just open for anyone to win, and wouldn't be completely unhappy about a draw either. So, I felt, Thurman did land more effective punches, and maybe if Porter, could, channel that aggression a little bit, and maybe it would have worked out better for him. But there's no doubt I wouldn't mind seeing this again. Fighter of the Year? I don't think so. I still keep that with Salido Vargas. There was obviously still, even with the infighting that was applied by either fighter of Salido or Vargas, they were still landing their punches where, Porter kind of wasn't. And I guess maybe that's what kind of takes away from being a complete fight of the year. But it's definitely a runner-up at this moment. Now, yes. So with the announcement of Canelo Smith, Golden Boy kind of leaked out that, they were looking at Pacquiao, but unfortunately he was in talks with landing a fight with Adrien Broner. And even reports of following after that had came out that Roach said he likes the fight. So, that'd be hard to see if that actually comes to fruition, but, with, obviously Manny Pacquiao being a senator. But if it does happen, that creates so much buzz. Even, we know Broner will will definitely get his ass kicked in this fight. But, this just screams great promo, and at least pre-fight promo with Broner talking crazy shit. So, we'll see. The only thing that probably gets me, probably a little concerned about, or not really concerned, but I would say more or less cautious about is just, Adrien Broner tends to be a little rash and brash and his shit talking. You know, they had a hard time, you know, trying to even put on, at least what was it on CBS, his Mexican or can man little gig there on CBS. They had a hard time even trying to put him on for that. I didn't really see it as racist, but you know, there's gonna be like borderline shit that he's gonna be saying, you know, probably worse than what, you know, Mayweather was saying about, you know, eating dog and rice or whatever the fuck he was trying to say. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I think I covered just about all that I could. You know, I really stuffed this podcast with as much as I could because, like I said, there's so much going on this weekend. But, you know, let's get some quick shout-outs real quick because, you know, Hands of Fire is moving pretty damn fast these days. We are officially on YouTube now. YouTube channel, Georgie Dampier. If you want to catch that, subscribe. This podcast will be included on it, of course. We broke our YTBC cherry last week. So this is going to be a start of that. I want to give a quick shout out again to my boy Chris Alexander, who got his Style Make Fights brand on Sean Porter's trunks this past Saturday. So shout out to him. He's got plenty more fighters on the way for that. And I want to give another shout out to RealCombatMedia.com, your place for all things combat media news. And grab a t-shirt while you're out there too. And let's see, of course, Mixcloud is where you always can catch this too. And that seems like it's about it for me. You guys know my tags all across social media boards. Georgie Dampier on Twitter. G.Alé, A-L-E on Facebook. G.Alé6 on Instagram. YouTube channel Georgie Dampier. All that. We out here, man. We're doing things. We're going big. And slowly but surely taking over the fucking world. So until next time, which I don't think it'll be a long time, but this weekend there are no fights. Like, there's no fights this weekend. And next week either. Thanks a lot, fucking Fury. So it looks like it'll just be watching Euro Cup all this week. No boxing. But yeah, that's about it for me. You guys be easy. Keep your hands up. Peace.